Hello Tubesters, it's Gav, and yes, it's that time again. We've got another shout out, and as you can tell by the length of the video, it's a very long one. So if you'd like to stop the video now and either go away and forget it, or I would suggest getting yourself a brew, maybe some biscuits, some gummy bears, whatever your thing is, and come back to the video and settle in. As you can see, it's a shout out to Jeff's Model Garage and Charlie Mack. Now, you cannot separate these two fellas. They've got two great channels. It's always a good day when one of them puts a video up, because I usually end up smiling away as I'm listening or having a look up as I'm painting away or modelling, whatever I'm doing. As I say, I've said it before, that's the whole for me, this is what I get out of YouTube. You know, you take away all the crud, you take away the manipulation, a lot of it from the people that run it, but you drill down into the core in this little murky world that we inhabit. And for somebody with head problems like myself, it just picks me up. You know, the interaction to watch people's videos and have whether you're just enjoying watching stuff or just chuckling away at something somebody said. Jeff's Model Garage is obviously mainly car related, although Jeff does do the very odd other things. You might even see some ferrets creeping in there from time to time. Charlie, he also does auto related stuff. He's got a beautiful bike he's making at the moment. I love my sports bikes. But he also does, again, he likes his naval stuff like myself, although you don't really see a lot of it on this channel. I do like my ships and things. Generally, apart from figures, both of them, I think they do a bit of everything. So before we get into the nitty gritty, and I would strongly suggest you go and check these guys out. Charlie is really close to the 1,000, and it would be really good if I haven't destroyed his sub base by that time. Talking of sub bases, that might be related. Before I destroy his subs, would you please go on and maybe give him a sub, because he's that close now. Just like Frederick, you're in there now. Frederick, the other day, it'd be really good when somebody's that close, just to get some wind behind the sails and push them over the line. Anyway, as I say, some people I put a single shout out. Sometimes I'm grouping together. These guys have got to be grouped together. We all know they're joined at the hip. They wouldn't admit that in public. But they're joined at the hip. I mean, I see them as, what can you say, Bo and Luke Duke, Starsky and Hutch, Abbott and Costello, Bert and Ernie. You can't have a Charlie Mack without a Jeff, and you can't have a Jeff without a Charlie Mack. Get them in the other, because they'll be most upset if one's above the other one. Now, what a lot of you probably don't realise, and I've got to admit I didn't. Somebody's obviously from, is it the Central American Agency? No, the Central Intelligence Agency. That's the word we're after. They must be keeping tabs on this channel. I must be a security risk. But anyway, somebody in the Pentagon obviously wanted to flag up the service of these two fellas that we've never heard of. In fact, I'm not even sure if Jeff and Charlie are their real names. I got a hugely redacted chunk of mail come just pushed through my letterbox, no postage, no nothing. From 3 o'clock in the morning, my Pop Archie went down, retrieved it for me. Big thing. It said, "You may be interested in this. The public needs to know the service of these two patriots." I went, fair enough. Who am I to stop the public hearing about these two great fellas? Well, it turns out, and I must admit I didn't realise, Charlie and Jeff go years back, not just known on here on YouTube, but they go a fair way back. It turns out they were both working in the circus together. Jeff, the amazing Jeff, as they called him, with his troop of trained ferrets, he'd do a high wire act, and the ferrets going up and down with him on little bicycles and stuff. He'd do a mind reading act. He'd get people out of the, what's the capital of France, Paris. He'd speak in ferretese, as it's called, or ferretese, something like that. Anyway, it's ferret talk. And Jeff's bilingual in it. He can talk to him like a native. And you know, the amazing Jeff was he'd have people oohing and ahhing, you know, at the things that these little furry critters could do under his command. No whipping, no chair and everything. They're his best mates. You don't do that to your best mates, do you? Anyway, he was doing that. Charlie Mack was obviously the strong man in the circus. They used to call him Balls of Steel. I believe it's carrying, you know, these big bars with the big balls of steel on the back. Yeah, don't make it up as you go along. Listen to the story. He would make a flying entrance coming in, rolling on top of rolling a barrel under his feet, big barrel of Jim Beans, while twirling his balls of steel in one arm, and at another barrel while he's taking huge big swigs of this fine Tennessee whiskey out of another. By then, his breath would be ready for fire. Now you might wonder, why has Charlie got such a great moustache, you know, goatee and that? It was because he never had one. Setting fire to his face all the time with this whiskey. Never had no eyebrows, never mind no moustache or anything. Well, it turned out in the audience was a high up ranking member of the CIA. Let me say no more. He was out on a family night out. Well, yeah, they do have family, with his family. And look at the man with his balls of steel, Mum. And Mum was going, oh no, let's look at the clowns. All this type of stuff. And they've been trying. There was a mission that they needed to do. I'll brief you a bit now, so I'm going to take you out of the story. So remember, Jeff and Charlie working in the circus, right? We're now going into the offices of the CIA. They had a mission to fulfill. They'd realised that North Korea was building a mini submarine. They couldn't get photographs of it, they couldn't get satellite images of it, and every time they were just about to, get some photographs and some background knowledge, the agent would disappear, or the person they were paying off in the shipyards or whatever. You just don't do that in North Korea. Now the problem was, he sent some James Bond type in there, and they go, it's not like the films. You don't just fly in there and they literally know you're coming. Oh, they know you. James Bond, hello, Mr. Bond, here you go. Let's go and strap you to a 30mm anti-aircraft gun. They need what in the intelligence community called fresh skins, and he was looking at two back at that circus. He was looking and thinking, they've got the attributes, bit of training. So a couple of days later, family not with him and a couple of other CIA buddies knock the door, these vans that they have. Jeff was just putting up and some makeup on for the next thing. Yeah, look, it accentuates his cheekbones. It turns out he'd been watching a guy called Sean from a Model Scale Car Guy channel. And it turns out that's what he does when he goes on his videos. It makes makes him skinny around the face, not like a big potato head like mine. I should try it myself. And anyway, Jeff was doing his stuff, and Charlie was getting a few smoked chicken wings out the smoker, and they were saying like, people, your country needs you. And it's more or less like, country can go and get stuffed. We've got a show to put on. And they said, $5,000 a day plus expenses. Where do we sign? I'm not calling them a couple of mercenaries, but where do we sign? And they said, right, this is what we want you to do. Go in North Korea. We want you to pinch a mini submarine. You'll be trained. We can see that the ferrets, the way they work, they can do most of the little intricate bits. Jeff talking in ferretese, and we want you to get this sub out to sea, and we'll pick you up with the rest of the fleet. We've already found a way of doing it. It turns out that there's a model car show called Acme. I can't remember actually off the top of my head where it's somewhere in the south. Well, it was going to be moved to Pyongyang. It was going to be the Americans' way of trying to show some hand of friendship. They were going to run this model car show in North Korea, just for the one time. And the idea was get a load of American lads in there with their cars, showing them all off. So your Toms, your Kens, Chris's, Brian's, and all the other guys that followed him in, get them in there. Absolute great cover for these two fellas. So, do a bit of training. They did ask for, obviously, how are we going to get in there? They said we're going to do one of them high altitude drops. You know, you don't literally pull the chute till 10 feet from the ground. Not a problem. And they said, right, well, you know, better get some training in. They said, oh, no training. You've only got to do it once. Well, you know, this is the government. We can't afford to giving you training when you're just jumping out of an airplane once. So anyway, they put the gear on them, fly them over North Korea. The guys brave as only them pair can be. I mean, you've watched their videos. They've got to be brave to put them up, and throw themselves out the back of this large fast aeroplane. Now, Charlie said, you know, they've got these, like, you know, they fly like bullets down through the stratosphere type of thing, and the masks on and all that gubbins, you know, and Jeff just shot past him. I mean, Charlie later recorded he was screaming like a bitch all the way down. Forgive my French. And Charlie shouting after him, under 10 minutes, Jeff, under 10 minutes. And pull the cord, Jeff, pull the cord. Oh yeah. 10 minutes. Down on the ground, or 10 seconds really. And he does one of them like professionals, like a professional, because Jeff's always professional on his videos. And he's running along, parachute, you know, dragging behind him. Beautiful landing. Charlie comes down, he makes a soft landing as well, straight on top of Jeff's back. Had to go for the chiropractor for years after that. Anyway, we're on the ground. Ferrets dig him a little hole. Get all the jump gear away. And they've been told to wait by a bus stop, or opposite a bus stop, and secret agent will come along, pick him up, double agent, North Korean guy, whatever, and get him into town. And they're waiting and waiting, nothing happens. Anyway, they can see, oh my life, 2 security guards coming up, border, whatever they are, you know, internal security type of thing. And, you know, there's a bit of a panic on, because they've got rucksacks full of ninja gear, ferrets, smoker, you name it, they've got it. And Jeff's thinking, if they find these ferrets here, because they've got a couple of model cars on the top as well, just to, you know, show, well, we're part of the model car club. And they've got, like, I love Pyongyang t-shirts on, all that type of stuff. And Jeff, he's always been quick as lightning when it comes to thinking. Literally grabs his ferrets by the scruff of the neck, 4 of them. Charlie's waistband, ferrets down the trousers. Charlie was a bit startled, I've got to admit. And got no time to, you know, I'm going to kill you, Jeff. And these 2 guards are coming right up to him now. And of course they're talking, but at the same time they're looking down, because it looks like Charlie's got a disco going on in the front of his trousers. Pants, what do we call them? We're in your part of the world. And they keep talking, like, and they're going, oh, we're, you know, Americans come to the car show, you know, and they're broken. Well, they're talking broken English. I don't believe that they had enough time to learn North Korean. And they're, you know, chatting away. And of course, they've been told by their head sheds, the North Korean guys, treat all these Americans like your own family. You know, we don't want to upset them. We're trying to get good relations here. And you know, of course, it had to happen. And all this, oh, you know, it shows you model cars, and they're showing them, you know. And of course, it had to happen. But the ferret decides to take a chunk out of Charlie's plums. Well, Charlie, hard as nails. He's got tears welling up in his eyes, and he's still talking to these guys, still showing him his CUDA. I don't know what year, because I have no idea what I'm talking about there. Anyway, showing him all this type of stuff, you know, they're going, oh yeah, you know, great, lovely. And all the time he's going, oh, Jeff, I'm gonna kill you. And tears streaming down his face. And of course, the North Korean guys, you know, what's going on? He says, oh, my mate Charlie, he's just never heard such good words talked about his models. You really, you know, plucked on his heartstrings. Anyway, guys go off. And as Charlie was strangling Jeff, he looked over his shoulder and noticed there was a bar, and there was Americans going in it. The Happy Cadre. party members eat free on Wednesdays. And he said, right, we've got no agent, it's not dark yet, which was the time they got to go into this sub-base. What can we do? I'm going to have me a drink. And Jeff's going through his coughing. Charlie, no. Because you know what Charlie's like once he gets on the bloody Jim Beans. You know what I mean? Never get a few beers. Never get him off them. And he's walking over walking. He was more like walking like John Wayne, you know, a bit of a limp, you know. And still got tears running down his eyes. Hard as nails. They don't call him balls of steel for nothing. And they go in there, and there's obviously all the guys there. Chris is there, Tom's there. Rick's made an appearance from Heartbeat Model Garage. Sorry, I can't say garage. You know, we've got Ken there showing off his show rods. Well, it's all going fine. They're at the bar. They're having a few whiskey chasers, just running the clock down, waiting for, you know, dead of night so they can get out. Of course, then it all kicks off, doesn't it? Some of the North Korean locals are a bit peed off that Ken's showing his show rods around, all the bits and pieces, and one decides to pull off one of his distributor caps. Well, you don't do that to Ken and his show rods. You just don't do it. All kicks off. We've got fist flying. We've got Tom White's there with two North Koreans under his arms. You know, going back to his wrestling days as Hulk Hogan. We don't forget Tom. We've got just general mayhem, bottles flying, all this type of stuff. Of course, the internal security come in. Man, what's going on? And they're about to start making some arrests of some of the Americans. Sorry, it slipped out there. Some of the Americans, and obviously Chris muscles him to the front. Now you can take the Chris out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of Chris. You'd already flattened two fellas. And he's, you know, pushes one of the border guards. I keep on border guards, but I can't think of anything else really. Pushed them out in the chest. What we're dealing with here is pure old-fashioned communism. What film did that come from? And at the time, Charlie says, I'll just finish my drink. Jeff says, not a chance. We've got to get out of here now before they start making arrests. And oh, by the way, you may ask, you've got some famous American YouTube car boys there. Where's Sean from Scale Model Car Guy? It's not a video without Sean. Well, Sean, everybody else is enjoying a few Swift ones. Sean's in the curio shops trying to pick out model car kits. Even in North Korea. Anyway, we'll return to Sean at a later date, probably. Anyway, they gets outside through it's a bit of shoveling getting through Charlie through a toilet window. But anyway, finally get him out. They're quickly getting on their ninja gear, you know, all the black robes and the black hood. And Jeff's going, bloody hell, it's dark in here, out here, Charlie. There's no lights, no nothing. Turn the hood round, Jeff. Oh, cheers, Charlie. What can you do? Anyway, how are we going to get to the sub base? It's still a couple of miles down in the harbour. Best form of transport there's ever been for Charlie. There's a big whiskey barrel propped up against the side. They must be making hooch or something to sell it to the locals. There's the transport on there, rolling down just like in the circus days again, rolling down here. They're getting closer and closer to the sub base. The guards at the gate going, what's that? You know, two black-coated Americans, four little black-coated ferrets on the shoulders. And of course saying, look, being kind to them or not, and some of the AKs are popping off, the sirens are going, you know, searchlights, all that good stuff. Smash through the gates, they're clotheslining them. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Rowdy Roddy Piper ain't got nothing on these pair when they've had a few whiskies and they're riding a whiskey barrel down into a sub base, I tell you. Clotheslining them everywhere. Flattened guards, sailors, you name it. Anyway, they're going round and round in circles, you know. By then, Charlie's getting a bit tired, you know. And he's saying, Jeff, because Jeff's got the map, you know, come on, get us onto the right pier, dock, whatever they call them in naval circles. And Jeff's looking and he can't find it. And then one of the ferrets points out to Jeff, you've got a road map of Des Moines. I mean, get the right map out. Suddenly, funnily enough, they can actually find the way around the sub base. They get to the dock, clothesline a couple of guards that were there, and they're looking down and they're thinking, this is the sub. It was like a bathtub with a bucket on top. You know what I mean? Not impressive. And Charlie, being the guy he is with his nautical models and everything, he says, I've made this. This is the CSA Hunley. Look to, I can't put it in the links probably, but CSA Hunley, a submarine that's been recently picked up from the American Civil War and put on display and whatever. Go look it up. It's a CSA Hunley. And he says, Jeff's going, I don't care what it is. This is the mission, because he's always mission focused, Jeff. Let's get in there. Well, of course, they made the mistake of getting Charlie in the conning tower, bucket on a thing. And the ferrets are bouncing on, and they finally get him in there. And Jeff gets in, the ferrets gets in, and they realise no engine, no electric power. It's like a giant bellow. You know, what can you do? They start, pedaling. Well, it's actually a big line. If you ever see the CSA Hunley, it's a big thing you move around. But anyway, bellow. Problem is, of course, they've got Charlie at the stern. Well, she's going like this, half out the water. So the ferrets again, Jeff and ferretees, like, and of course the little guys are going around doing the ballast, and finally they get below the waves. Charlie later said it's like was being in a sewer pipe with Alvin and the chipmunks. But 2 days pedalling, and that's a lot of pedalling. They finally get out to the fleet surface, and it's whoop, 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 anchors away, my boy, all that type of stuff, But of course, it was going to be the only real recognition until this video these two fellas got, because they couldn't go and talk about how they've nicked a North Korean submarine. It ain't going to look good. It turned out it was a bit of like some American Secret Service agent had sold the plans on to the North Koreans, them not realising this as an American mini-sub. The North Koreans had paid a lot of money for this, never realising they were building the CSA Hunley. And the joke was on the Americans as well, because they're going to nick it back. What goes around comes around, I suppose. So, guys, I can't tell you much more than that. These are true patriots. Now you're going to ask me, well, Gav, we follow the two heroes of the story, 6 with the ferrets. What about the other guys for the model car show guys? They volunteered as well. They weren't getting $5,000 a day, believe me, but they'd volunteered. Well, it turns out the North Koreans were very obliging. They sent them to a health spa up in the mountains called Gulag 17, where they were guaranteed to lose weight and learn to speak North Korean in over a few years. But the American government always stands by its people. They were only in there 2 months. Well, most of them were actually in the North Korean Gulag. It did take a couple more days to find the other chap from Arkansas who was still mooching around Pyongyang looking for model hobby shops. Finally got him, and he got in there as well. But he was a couple of weeks behind on the diet process and the other guys. Anyway, all they wanted was for the big man himself to be on Dancing with the Stars, and he also wanted an original Mariah Carey Christmas album from I think 1995, something like that. That's all they wanted. I'm not saying that's what these Americans are worth in real life, because they're good friends of this channel, but they were released after a couple of months. A lot thinner than you see them now on their videos, because they've put obviously a few pounds back on since then with some good home cooking. Guys, don't ask Jeff, don't ask Charlie about the mission. There have been a few other missions which may leak out in due course, I have no idea. But don't ask them, they're embarrassed. This is just the CIA wanting to, at last, draw back the veil on these two heroes, at least one mission that these two heroes have performed for their country. Absolute patriots. Jeff, Charlie, I salute you. I hope the rest of YouTube does too. Guys, really serious now. I can hear Charlie's footsteps coming up these stairs now, ready to batter me. I absolutely did this usual Mickey take, tall stories. Yes, Cal, it's a tall story. I do the odd one like this because these are just really, well, the other guys that I mentioned are really good blokes as well. I wouldn't be mentioning if they weren't, but I know they'll take it in the spirit it was meant. They do some fantastic work. As I say, I love watching the videos. I love interacting with them. They're two class lads, and as I say, I'd really hope that you'd maybe go along. And again, as I've said before, you know, just check the channels out. You won't be disappointed. Hopefully, you'll leave them a sub. And if you don't, would you just mind at least clicking on, you know, a like on one of the videos? Again, it all helps, you know, it all helps them along. Jeff, Charlie, Jeff. No, no one likes to be above the other. These pair. Thank you very much for, as I say, you put a grin on my face on most of the videos you do. And as I say, with my head problems, it's really appreciated. And you're not even trying to be funny half the time. You're just a couple of likeable blokes. So, guys, if you're stuck with this video, I really appreciate it. I make no apologies for some of these. I know most of you like under 10 minutes, but Gav doesn't often do them that way. So, look after yourselves, guys. There'll be some other shout outs coming along in the pipe work. And if you are a dictator, a arch villain out there, be careful, because it could be 2 YouTubers and 4 ferrets parachuting into your country very soon. Look after yourselves, guys. We'll speak soon.